They said I would never have the courage to challenge the mining giants who've been bleeding Africa dry for decades. European executives called me another young African leader making empty threats. Mining lobby groups dismissed me as a soldier who doesn't understand economics. Even some of my own advisors whispered I was moving too fast, too dangerously against powers, too big to fight. They were all wrong, because while they were busy underestimating me, I was busy dismantling their entire extraction empire across my continent. And what I'm about to tell you isn't just what happened in Burkina Faso, it's the blueprint for how Africa finally stops being the world's mining colony. My name is Ibrahim Traoré, and this is the story of how I declared economic war on Europe's African mining empire. Let me start with something they don't want you to know. For decades, while African leaders were signing development deals and shaking hands for photo ops, European mining companies were building something else entirely. A network of extraction operations that took our gold, our resources, our wealth, and shipped it straight to European banks. They thought we were too poor to fight back, too desperate to say no, too divided to reclaim what was ours. I noticed everything. Do you want to know what really triggered my decision to act? 3 weeks ago, during my live radio interview with Radio Bina, I said something that sent shockwaves through every European mining boardroom from London to Paris. Translation: there are a good number of permits that I have already withdrawn, and we will continue to withdraw. But here's the part that made European executives realize this wasn't just political posturing. I followed that statement with something that changed everything. Why do we know how to exploit gold? And we should let multinationals come exploit our gold. That night, mining company stock prices began to drop. Emergency board meetings were called across Europe because they finally understood this wasn't a negotiation. This was a declaration of economic independence. What I revealed in that interview wasn't just about permits. It was about exposing a system that has kept Africa poor while making Europe rich for over a century. Let me break down exactly what these development partnerships really look like. European companies extract billions in gold from African soil. They pay minimal taxes to African governments. Raw materials shipped to Europe for processing. Finished products sold back to Africa at massive markups. Profits flow to European shareholders. Africa remains a supplier of raw materials. During the interview, I explained something that every African leader knows, but few have the courage to say publicly. These same people don't hesitate to ally with imperialist forces who spend their time impoverishing us. This isn't anti-EU sentiment, this is pro-African economics, and the numbers prove it. Before my permit withdrawals, Burkina Faso was a major gold producer, yet had a 40% poverty rate. Mining companies made billions in annual profits. Local communities received minimal benefit from resources beneath their feet after implementing SOPAMIB and apex state control. Gold revenues flowing to Burkina, treasury, local employment in processing, not just extraction, investment in schools, hospitals, infrastructure, resources, serving the people who live above them within hours. Off my radio interview, something unprecedented began happening across European financial markets. Mining company executives who had operated in Africa for decades were calling emergency meetings. Stock analysts were downgrading African mining investments. European government officials were making frantic diplomatic calls because they realized what I had just announced wasn't limited to Burkina Faso. During the interview, I made it clear this was part of a continental strategy. There were mining permits here that had been given to powers that even refused to accompany us. The message was simple: if you won't respect African sovereignty, you lose access to African resources. But here's what really scared European mining executives. I wasn't acting alone. Moli's leadership had been watching our model. Niger was evaluating their own mining. Partnerships Guinea was conducting audits of foreign extraction operations. For the first time in decades, African countries were coordinating economic policy instead of competing against each other. For foreign investment, Burkina Faso withdraws European mining permits. Conquer's strategy was failing. During my radio interview, I was asked about Thomas Sankara's political orientation discourse. My response revealed the philosophical foundation of everything we're doing. Thomas was too ahead of his time, and I think that's what made him not understood. Mali begins reviewing foreign extraction deals. Niger audits multinational mining operations. Continental resource sovereignty becomes reality. European companies that had treated African governments as individual negotiating partners suddenly faced a unified continental approach to their divide. And thank you all for being with me. I will meet you all very soon.